Alexa, stop! Alexa! I'm Ben with Bread Brothers, and today I'm going to be teaching you about soda bread. So my first experience with soda bread was in 2012. My wife Lynette and I went to Ireland and stayed at a bed and breakfast, and we were served soda bread the next morning for breakfast that was made that morning right in-house by the woman who ran the bed and breakfast. Years later, Bert Compton and I went back to Ireland on a dude's trip to do some photography and just spent some time in the wilds of Ireland. We were exposed to some really great soda bread. Out on the Isle of Inishmore, which was really incredible. This woman baked this really dense, really brown, really healthy soda bread that just inspired both of us. And we've come home and really spent a lot of time working on this soda bread. Soda bread is much different than typical American yeast bread. It's instead of using yeast, we use Arm & Hammer or whatever brand you have of baking soda. It's kind of more like a pound cake in that it's dense, it's chewy, it doesn't stay fresh for very long. There are no preservatives in it, so you need to use it fairly quickly, 2 days at the tops. It's great for sandwiches, it's great for spreading just jam or butter on and eating it right out of the oven. One of the things that I really love about it is that it doesn't require kneading. It's something that goes fairly quickly. It's actually, you can make a great loaf in under an hour, so you can get up and bake this for your family and have it for breakfast. So I am going to be teaching 3 different kinds of soda bread today, but I'm going to focus one at a time. Or at least the first one all the way through. A lot of people don't have whole wheat flour in their home. I'm going to be using just all-purpose flour on this first one. The next ones I'll be showing you what it looks like to use whole wheat and then a half and half mix. So I'll be doing 3 loaves today. Recipe, you're going to need some buttermilk. Now, I didn't want to go to the store this morning to buy buttermilk. And that's okay, because you don't need actual buttermilk, but you do need to create buttermilk, and you can do that with milk and with vinegar. So this is 1 2/3 cups of just regular milk, 2% milk, and to that I added 2 tablespoons of white vinegar. You can also use lemon juice if you have that. If you don't have vinegar or lemon juice or milk, go to the store and buy buttermilk. But you're going to need 14 ounces. So 1 2/3 cup is just under 14 ounces, and then you add the 2 tablespoons, and it gets up to right nearly exactly 14 ounces. So set that aside. That needs to just kind of sit for a little while. And it becomes quite a bit thicker than regular milk. You can kind of see it curdled there. So that's reacted to the milk and produce buttermilk. So I'm going to begin with 3 cups of white flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1 kind of heaping teaspoon, not like fully heaping, but one solid teaspoon there of baking powder. Then I'm going to add the milk, the buttermilk, and stir that all together. Now this should only take maybe probably under a minute to stir this together. Go all the way to the bottom and make sure you don't leave any clumps of wet flour, of dry flour. This is kind of like a big thick batter, or definitely not
Definitely not a dough that you would want to knead. This would make a mess on the counter, of course, and all over your hands and be really, really sticky. So just a real thick batter. And I'm just gonna take my pan. If you have a baking pan that isn't stick proof, you'll want to rub grease on it or spray it with a Pam or something like that, or use a parchment paper. This is a non-stick pan, so it makes it really easy. I'm sure Bert will have a pretty way to do this with his bread, but I'm not sure if it turns out much different either way. So just kind of lump it in there, and when I'm just going to thump it down a few times to get that to settle down. So it's ready to go. That took all of about 2 minutes, and I'm going to put it in the oven at 425 degrees for 35 minutes. So I'll be back to check on this in 35 minutes, but while we're waiting, I'm going to work on the other breads that I talked to you about earlier. Okay, so I have already measured out the ingredients for each of these other 2 recipes. So I have 3 cups of whole wheat flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of baking soda, kind of heaping teaspoon of baking soda for this one. And in this one I have 1.5 cups of whole wheat flour and 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, and then 1 teaspoon of salt and 1 heaping teaspoon of baking soda. Anytime you use whole wheat flour, you're going to need a little bit more liquid. Whole wheat flour is a little bit more thirsty, so I actually have 16 ounces of liquid instead of the 14 ounces. I'm going to pour that in. And stir it up quickly, just like I did with the other one. So I've had several people ask me on social media to come up with a bread that can be used with their whole wheat. A lot of people are storing wheat and have stored it and maybe have a wheat grinder to turn their wheat into flour, but then how do you use whole wheat? So few of our recipes today use whole wheat. We're into this white flour, which really isn't all that healthy for us. There's so many great things about the bran and the fiber associated with whole wheat. This is a really excellent bread for whole wheat. As you saw, it was only whole wheat flour. And I'll show you in just a few minutes what that is going to look like. So I'm going to go ahead and mix up this other dough with the 50-50 mix as well, and put that in the oven as well. Okay, so again, this is just a real thick, gooey batter. And we'll just dump that right into the... Okay, so you can see the difference here in color with the whole wheat and the 50-50. And we'll put that in the oven right now, also for 35 minutes. Okay, so we're just going to slide these in. You can see the other bread has already started to rise and bake nicely there. I'm going to put those right along the sides. And 35 minutes, 425. I've had the good fortune to be able to go to Ireland 3 times now, and each trip was amazing. I went with my wife the first time, with Bert the second time, and then Bert and I took our families back the 3rd time. I can't wait to go again. But one of our favorite stories from Ireland is one night in Dingle, Bert and I went pub hopping, drinking our orange Fantas along the way. But one pub had nothing but accordion music playing, and so whenever I hear accordion music, I think of this beautiful little pub
on the main street in Dingle, where there were 12 accordion players that evening. It was a Thursday night, must have been a slow night, and it was accordion practice night, and so these guys would get together and one would start off and pretty soon they'd all join in this crazy reveille of accordion music. So that's why I started out this video with a little accordion music myself. I aspire to be an accordion player, but I've heard that a true gentleman is someone who knows how to play the accordion but doesn't. So it's important to check this. I have a cake tester here, just a long pointy stick here, and I'm just going to stick that into the middle and make sure it comes out clean, which it does. So we are good to go. I baked this before at 30 minutes and it always comes out doughy, so try not to do that. And then I like to turn it out of the pan real quickly just to make sure that it doesn't sweat inside the pan and make it soggy. So I'll cut this when I get the other ones out as well. All right, so these others are done as well. I'm gonna turn those out. So these are a little too hot to cut right now, but you can kind of see the difference in both the color and the height. So the denser your flour, the lower or the smaller your loaf is going to be. So white flour, 50-50, and the whole wheat flour. Okay, so it's been 10 minutes now for each of these to cool, and I thought I'd just slice into it and kind of show you what the crumb looks like inside. So there's the 100% white flour. This is the 50% white, 50% whole wheat. And this is the 100% whole wheat. So you can see the difference in colors there, the difference in texture. These are obviously, all three of these are very rustic looking loaves, but they're hearty, they're tasty, and hopefully your whole family will enjoy them. Bake bread, be happy.